Hello, welcome to another in our series of Intergraph CADWorx and Analysis Solutions videos, featuring CADWorx E&I.
A technician receives orders to repair a pump and motor and associated flow transmitter in the tank farm area. So in order for the technician to do his job, he must discover information, and he's going to use CADWorx E&I to find various documentation which will help him to more efficiently do the repairs on the motor and on the flow transmitter. So his supervisor first is going to locate a layout diagram showing a section of the tank farm unit. In particular, it's going to show where the pump is located, and of course the motor associated with the pump. And first we're seeing a drill down in project management where you can see the delivered document structure, and we go to the overview documents and we quickly find the tank farm layout document. So let's zoom in on the section where the pump is located. And so the technician is now aware that it's the P1 pump, and so he can now continue to find information. And of course the technician could go in and manually drill down to find documents, but CADWorx E&I offers the ability to select objects and begin to open associated documents. So let's first select this symbol representing the P1 pump, and we find that we can now immediately go to the motor circuit diagram. Now first let's go to the single line diagram, and we can view some information in regards to the single line diagram. So let's zoom in on this. So the technician is taking in information. Now note that the item in red is directly associated back to the previous document. So these two documents are tied together through two different symbols, but it's the same item or same object associated to those symbols. So now from here we can go ahead and go to the motor circuit diagram, and now the technician can glean information from this document. Again, the item in red is what is directly associated back to the previous SLD document. So if we eventually zoom in on this, we can begin to take note of information. Now in particular, the technician, okay, so here we go with the motor information. Now the technician also wants to see additional information in regards to the fuses. Okay, in order to do his work, he anticipates that he's going to have to disconnect fuses, and so he can quickly find this information through a cabinet diagram association. Okay, so again, the item in red directly associated back to the fuses in the motor circuit diagram. It's associated here in the cabinet, and now the technician has an idea of where this is located. And if he looks at the top of the diagram, he can see the actual name of the panel. In this case, it's Motor Control Center 1A. And so this is allowing him to continue collecting information to help him do his work. Alright, so now we move on to the flow transmitter, and we need to first open up a loop diagram for the loop where the transmitter is included in, and we're going to open up the Engineering Explorer in order to do that. And so first let's go down to the unit, and once we select the unit, then we can go to the MCE Loops tab, which is the measuring control element tab. It's where the instrument loops reside. Again, this is an instrument and electrical solution, so we have both instrument loops, and we'll find out later we have electrical loops. So we see the loops, and we see where we have multiple views within this window. So I'm going to show a standard directory of loop, what we call loop elements. So when we select a loop, we can see the loop elements that are listed, and we can identify that the FT100 flow transmitter is indeed what is of interest here. Alright, so we want to call up the loop diagram. We're going to open the loop diagram, and we can do that by just simply clicking on the loop and selecting Call Up Loop Diagram from the right click menu. So now we can zoom in and find out additional information in regards to electrical connection. So we also want to see the installation details for this flow transmitter. This is part of what's going to help us with the job. So we can open up yet another associated overview diagram. In this case, it would be the installation details or the hookups. Now it's worth noting that this particular report was created from importing a DXF file. And once we imported the DXF file, I was able to take and highlight the instrument in red there, and I created another new symbol that is an intelligent symbol, and I was able to make the proper association so we could open the document as you saw there. So now we want to find additional customer supplied documents. We also want to find a specification, so we can do this again from the Engineering Explorer. We have full access to the documents, and first we're going to find a specification and open that up. Now this specification was created on an Excel template, so we're going to use Excel to open it up. Okay, so we can collect additional information from opening up this specification, and now we can see that the FT100 instrument was indeed associated to it. Now I also want to find customer supplied external documents, and this time we're going to create a new custom filter, and we're going to search based on keywords. So I'm going to use one keyword, then I'm going to create an OR filter and use a second keyword. This is just to show you the different types of filters that can be utilized. And so I just selected one of those customer supplied documents. It's a PDF. It's a link embedded in CADWorx E&I to this. And so you can quickly open up these documents and take a look at the information therein, and it's always readily available. Okay, let's clear the filter. Now the ability to take documents out in the field is invaluable, particularly now that we have solutions as mobile devices. If we take a look at using document groups, and I've created 3 groups: electrical, instrumentation, external documents. We first open up the electrical document group. You can see the documents available, and now the technician finds that he can individually select documents that he found that will be useful for his job, and he can go ahead and export these documents to a PDF file. Okay, so we're just going to select a location and provide a document name. And again, noting that as part of the selections, we actually chose a document that was already PDF. So the system is intelligent enough to handle adding a PDF in a PDF. All right, so we're going to do the same thing in the instrument group. Okay, so going to the resulting files, you can quickly see we have the PDF document. And also of interest is if you click on an object in this PDF file, we have hyperlinks that are embedded. And essentially it's the same type of workflow, is that we're able to immediately jump to other documents based on the object association between the different symbols and the different reports. So now the technician can add these documents to a mobile device and take them out in the field to help him do his work more efficiently. We can just quickly open up the instrument PDF we created. You see there we opened up the external customer document, and we have the spec. We have the installation detail, and we can quickly jump to the loop diagram. Okay, so the technician finishes his work and finds some items that were not properly noted, and so now a designer will need to step in and begin to make entries into CADWorx E&I to denote the items that were missing. So we're going to begin this process by opening up Engineering Explorer again. This is where we will enter new loops and new loop elements. It's called the basic engineering part of CADWorx E&I. So let's start by creating a new loop, and we're going to do this in a manual fashion first. There are certainly quicker ways, other tools that can be used. We're going to do this first, filling in information in the loop properties window. Go ahead and apply a description. We're also going to fill in what's called a standard loop identifier. And this loop identifier is very powerful. And one of the things that we're going to pull from this loop identifier, we're going to utilize a standard template that's going to quickly allow us to create a new loop diagram report. Okay, so at this point you click on the loop, you see no loop elements in the standard directory list, so we need to begin to add some new loop elements or new instruments into this loop. Alright, so in order to do that, we have to navigate the menus and make the proper selections based on what we want to create. So the first item we're going to create is the flow element. Okay, so based on my naming convention I've set up, I simply give it the instrument type name. I'm going to go ahead and set the type. This is going to be a flow meter sensor. And I also need to supply information for the position. This data is required in order for the standard loop template to be properly applied. Each element is going to, well, I'll explain more about that when we get there. Alright, so at this point, what I'm showing you here is how easy it is to copy an existing instrument from an existing loop. Now this instrument has the majority of the data that I already need, and so I'm going to go in here and quickly modify the instrument description so that it accurately reflects the loop that it's a part of. And just to open up the properties for this instrument and show you the data that was indeed copied over. Okay, so I'm going to continue to add additional loop elements. This time I'm going to add a signal conditioning device, This is going to be my I2P transducer, so providing an instrument type name FY. I'm going to fill in the position information again. It's part for that standard loop identifier using the template, and provide the device type. Let's go ahead and once again we're going to create a control device. We'll create a new control valve, provide the name FV, as well as set again the device type, control valve. And I'm going to go once again go to an existing loop, and I'm going to grab two instruments, my analog input, my analog output. I'm going to copy those, and we're going to paste those into our new loop. So now we have a complete setup for our new loop and all of the loop elements that needed to be added. Okay, I see I need to go back and fill in a position value. I've got to make sure that those are existing so that the next process we're going to create our new loop diagram. Now before we do that, I want to show you quickly, as part of the project you have various templates, and in this particular project we go to the loop diagram typicals, and if I open this up I can quickly see that we do have some templates available, and in particular open up the one that's going to be utilized. Okay, so this is the template that we're going to utilize to create our new loop. Okay, so let's go ahead and run through that process. Simply a matter of selecting Create Loop Diagram. Choose the diagram typical. Process is finished. We can immediately go up to the loop and call up the loop diagram. And now we can begin to see that the loop elements have already been assigned to the individual instruments. So we can quickly look at the flow element. We can see that it indeed has been assigned, as well as the transmitter and our control valve, our I2P transducer. Now what has been assigned over here are the analog input and output tags, but of course there's no assignments into the DCS just yet. And we'll make those here in just a bit. So we need to start with the device panel. So we need to create new terminal strips, and we need to make assignments of those individual terminals to the appropriate symbols. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and begin to arrange my windows. I'm first going to go into the terminal strips item editor. Okay, so I have a reference 2-wire device panel that I've created, and this is something that you can freely utilize to create additional new device panels based on the configuration that it contains. Now, I'm showing here that the item designation actually is called TS. So if I double click and open it up, I have a positive and negative terminal, and of course this shows all the live active information in regards to cable assignments and things of that nature, and we'll begin to build on those as we go here in just a bit. Okay, so I'm going to create a new device panel, and I'm simply going to initiate the copy item function. Now I'm going to fill in what's called the facility value, but a better translation for this is the function. What is this item doing? So in this case, it's a device panel. And the second field value that I'm going to fill in is location. This is actually going to be the device panel name. So let's go ahead and provide a name for this. And the last piece, which is the item designation, we're going to leave that as a default information, with that being TS. Okay, so now we have our new device panel. If I quickly open it up, I can see indeed I have a positive and negative terminal. And eventually we're going to add cable assignments, individual conductor assignments. Okay, so I'm going to reposition that window. Now I want to make an assignment, and first I'm going to show you how to make a manual assignment. So it is possible to manually assign that terminal, and you see here if I choose all the correct values, in this case the facility or function, the location, and then you can see the terminals actually available to me. I'm able to successfully assign the positive terminal to this symbol in this loop drawing. Now, of course, there is an easier way to handle assignments, and it's called through the attach overview function. So I'm going to pick up that negative terminal and then go back to my drawing. And once I activate this, then I have a red crosshair, and I can simply click on the symbol that I want to assign that negative terminal to. And it's done. I don't have to go through all the pick list selections. So now you can begin to see information filling in this case, what we have available to us is the cross-reference information. If we double click on that, then that'll take us right to that item, and again showing it in red, and that's where that assignment for this terminal in that terminal strip is located. So now let's move on to picking up some terminals out of our junction box. Again, we're going to do the same basic method, except this time I'm going to show you how you can pick up multiple terminals using the attach overview function. So I need to find my junction box, my target junction box. There's my terminal strip TS1. And I want to pick up terminals 4, 5, and 6. Activate the attach overview function. Go back to my drawing and simply land them. As you can see there, the panel name and the terminal strip name come in based on how the symbols are built. And you can see those individual terminals from this panel and terminal strip have indeed been assigned. Now you can begin to see other changes in the drawing, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. Now you can see here in the connection window for these terminals, now based on assignment between the device panel and the junction box, because we have what's called electrical connections already existing, we can begin to see associated terminal information coming in. Of course, we haven't landed any cables yet, but because we have the electrical signals now completed from the terminal ends assignments, terminal end associations, we can now begin to move towards making cable or conductor assignments. Okay, so let's move over to working with the cables editor. So what we're going to do next is create a device cable with the conductors needed, and we're going to make associations on these terminals. So if you create a device cable, you're utilizing a component library item. And this component library item association, once you make the association, this is what will help us to determine the conductors that will be created inside the cable. So the cable is created, it's an empty shell, and so we have to tell it what will actually be in the cable itself. And so what I want to quickly show you are the conductors based on this component library item, what's going to be created. We have a white and black wires and a shield, a metal shield. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a new cable. Again, we're going to assign the function. This is device cable. In this case, we don't care about the location. The item designation is going to be the actual cable name. Now we're going to choose this component library item. Alright, so I have to choose the specific cable component type, and then I can find from my library one pair number 20 black white selection, and once I do that, the cable's created, and if I go into it now, I can see that I do have a white and black conductor with a metal shield. So now what we need to do is assign those individual conductors to the terminals. So we're going to do this first from the device panel. That'll be the easiest way for you to see this. So we're first going to have to pick up the wires that we want to assign. I'm going to do this first. I'm going to attach an individual wire. So you could use attach serial, which is going to allow you to attach multiple wires. But we're just going to land one wire this time. And of course, this is going to be on the positive terminal. And you can do this either by clicking on the cable ID field or the wire designation. Either will do. Once you do that, then you simply landed the wire. So if we go back to our drawing, we can begin to see the information coming in. And of course, because we had an electrical connection already extended to the number 4 terminal in our junction box, we can see the information appearing at both ends. So now let's go back and pick up the black conductor. Land it. Go back to the drawing. We can now see all the information between those two conductors coming in. Now, at the device panel, the shield is floating. In the junction box, it's connected. And of course, in my symbol creation, I hard-coded the metal. The MTE stands for metal. I hard-coded that in, so you're already seeing that. But the wire is not already connected as of yet at the junction box. So what I need to do is I need to go to the number 6 terminal, and I need to land that shield wire at the junction box. So I'm going to pick it up. And then land it. So again, it's floating at the device panel instrument. It's floating at the instrument, but it's connected at the junction box. So now we've completed that. So what I want to do next is move over to the marshalling rack, and I'm going to pick up some terminals there. And what this is going to show you next is, okay, I already have cables, conductors connected between the junction box and the marshalling rack. So as soon as I make a terminal assignments, you're going to begin to automatically see cable and conductor information coming in on the drawing. Okay, so I need to find my marshalling panel. FT1 terminal strip. In this case, I'm going to pick up terminals 3 and 4, and you can already see cable information because, again, cables are already landed on these terminals. So again, using the attach overview function, go back to our drawing, associate those terminals, and you can see the cable information coming in accordingly. Okay, so at this point, what I have left to complete for this part of the loop for the flow transmitter is to make a channel assignment into a DCS. Now again, the AI analog input tag has already been assigned to this particular symbol. So now we're going to open up the programmable controllers editor so I can quickly navigate to my DCS panel, and I'm going to select the analog input card first, go to the functions tab, and I can see all the channels. We have 8 channels, and I can find the one that has no assignment. And again, using the attach overview function, I can quickly go in and make an assignment to channel 3, and you can see the information appearing there. You can see the cabinet, the rack, the I/O card, and the slot. So now in order to finish this, let's refresh it. You can see the tag as it has been assigned. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the address information. And the signal ID column is what I'm using for my control system tag. Okay, so in this case, this particular loop is indicating in control, so I'm going to make the DCS tag name accordingly, and now you can see that information again immediately appearing in the drawing. Okay, so I can go ahead and go to the analog output card, and again, using the attach overview function, make another quick assignment. Okay, got to go back and pick it back up again. We made an assignment for channel 1. Okay, so for this session, we've created a complete connection for the flow transmitter from the instrument all the way to the DCS. Alright, so we have some connections. Now let's go ahead and talk about quickly generating connection reports. So I'm going to do this first from the terminal strip editor, and it was simple enough to choose the terminal strip that I want to create a report for, and I provide a name for the report, and that's all that's required. And so the report is created. Now we need to go find it. Okay, so using Engineering Explorer in the Documents tab, that report now appears down at the bottom, and quickly open it up, and now you have a connection report. So let's zoom in and take a look at some of the information. Now it's worth noting that this report is, of course, completely customizable. The customer can create any type of layout that they need in order to denote, show the information. In this case, this deliver template doesn't quite fit all the information that as I'm utilizing it, and so it'll be necessary at some point for me to customize this report by modifying it, or I can go ahead and create an entirely new connection diagram report. Now, we did that from the terminal strip editor. So now what I want to do is show you how you can also do the same thing, but from the loop. So we're going to the loop diagram, and I'm going to choose one of these symbols within the panel. Well, first I can show you that the terminal connecting diagram that we just created is now accessible from the loop drawing immediately by simply choosing a symbol with one of those terminals associated that gives us that direct object link or cross-reference connection. But now we can also go ahead and create yet another connection diagram for the marshalling panel for this terminal strip. Again, using the same workflow process, we can apply the document name. Now, we just created this document. We don't have to go anyplace else. We can immediately go ahead, go to our Edit Diagram menu, and select the terminal connecting diagram. So we created the new report and we opened it all from the loop drawing. Okay, so now let's move over to adding a new electrical loop. So CADWorx E&I approaches the use of electrical items in the same manner that you would have a group of instruments. So you have a group of electrical items in a loop. You have a group of instrument items in an instrument loop. And so if we take and look at this, we can see that we have the motors and the digital inputs and whatnot. So now let's go ahead and create this new electrical loop, and we're going to add new loop elements or electrical loop elements to this loop. So let's go ahead and fill in some additional information again at the loop level. And again, this time you can see that we're clearly dealing with an electrical loop based on the property selections. Alright, so once again I'm going to go ahead and assign a standard loop identifier. We're going to use the standard loop identifier, but this time we're going to use it more to its full potential, because not only can you apply a standard template, but you can also pull standard loop elements from it. And you can see here in the actual template, this shows the loop elements that are also part of this template. So now what we're going to do is we're going to copy standard loop items, which is going to quickly create the loop elements for this electrical loop. Now when I select this, I should see my loop elements. So now my fuse, my digital inputs, my level switches, and my motor. Alright, so now we can go ahead and quickly move to creating a loop diagram. And we can immediately call it up. So now we already have the primary loop elements assigned to the various items in this template based on the setup. And you can see there, particularly for the motor, that we have data already coming in for it. And so once we've reached this point, now it's just a matter of creating and attaching cables in between the various points. In this case, between the X1 terminal strip and the motor itself. Now, there is an update to a motor symbol in this project. So this particular template doesn't have the latest symbol applied to it. So what I want to do is I want to quickly show you how easy it is to change the symbol and to update it. Now this window shows thumbnails of the available symbols. So you can already see here, if you do a quick comparison between what's being used and the new one, you can see the differences. And if we go down the list, you can see all of the selections that are available. And again, this is all the selections available for this particular point in this diagram based on the function type. So if I go ahead and go through the process of adding the symbol, you can see how it did indeed change. So we have data that's missing or that needs to be changed here. So what we can do is select just one piece of data and open up a dialog box that immediately will allow us to begin to edit the data associated to this motor. Okay, so I'm going to make some data changes. Let's change the horsepower, the rated power, the rated voltage, our synchronous speed, and the rated current. And again, changes that I just made are immediately updated in this drawing, in this object-oriented database. Okay, so we've added a new motor to CADWorx E&I. So now we need to go back and update the single line diagram. We need to add this motor so that it accurately is reflected on the single line diagram. And I need to add an exact setup, as you see here, for the M100 motor. And I need to add all these individual symbols. So just give me a few minutes and I'm going to go ahead and land these symbols. Okay, so I'm going to use what's called a load macro command. Make my selection. Land it, and we're done. So at this point, we're using what's called assembly macros to land all these individual symbols that have been connected into this assembly. And now I can go to the motor symbol itself and quickly make a loop assignment and a loop element assignment, and we can immediately see the data appearing for that motor. Let's zoom in and take a closer look at that. Likewise, I can go ahead and make a quick assignment for the fuse. And now I can see the data coming in for the fuse disconnect. So now we've updated the single line diagram. Let's go ahead and add a revision to this single line diagram. So CADWorx E&I does handle what's called revisions, or actually what's called history, but better known as revisions. So I can fill in some minimal information. Some information will automatically come in, such as the date. So once I add that row, then I should be able to go back to my drawing and I can immediately see the revision information coming into the title block accordingly. Okay, so at this point, I want to show you now how I can create a project from scratch and how quickly we can get that project up and running with data and a report. But before I do that, let me go to the project that we've just been working in. And I want to show you the power of CADWorx E&I and the ability to take all of the project reports and place them into a PDF file that can then be sent out to a customer for a quick review. So again, this is the same process that the technician went through, but he's selected individual documents. So in this case, now we're going to see that we have the full range of all of our project, including our external customer documents. We have all of our specifications, some that you didn't see, of course. We also have, based on this configuration that we used, we will find that we have the hyperlinks embedded, which will allow us to immediately begin to jump from report to report through the objects. So again, this could be utilized to for an EPC to send to their customer. And you can see here that this project also had included in it a European type instrument loop diagram. So again, the power of CADWorx E&I is its ability to handle essentially customer needs no matter what country, no matter where in the world you're at. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue with creating a new project from scratch. So again, we're going to create a new project. There is a wizard that you can use, and it'll quickly and easily allow you to copy information from other projects. It's one of the powerful features of CADWorx E&I is the ability to copy items or objects from one project to another for reuse. But in this case, I'm going to create a project entirely from scratch. Okay, and a new single .db database file is created. Okay, so my new project appears in project management. Now you have to create a new workspace because that's where all of the primary functionality items, that's where they reside, that's where they live. So we're going to create a new workspace. And in this workspace, we already see that we have what's called an ET node, or an electrical technique node. It's where all the electrical items in the design engineering phase exist. So I'm going to perform a standard import using an Excel source file. Now, this is where you create your import links. So I already have a link, of course, created. And so what I need to do is go out and find my source file. I'm going to find my Excel source file. Now, before I actually connect to it, I'm going to go ahead and open it up and show you the data that exists inside this source file. Okay, so you can see all the data in columns, and we're going to pick up a few of these columns, and that's what we're going to add into CADWorx E&I in our new project. Okay, I made a slight mistake, so I'm going to go back, run through the process again, something I misselected. Okay, this time the import was successful, and I can quickly go into the ET node and show all items. And you can see here the data that we picked up from that source file. And in particular, we picked up those items, and we imported the description for those items into one of the fields in CADWorx E&I. For this demonstration, we're actually going to focus in particularly on one item, and I'll show you what we're going to do here in just a bit. Now we'll come back and take a look at this in just a little bit. But what I'm going to do next is I want to create a new overview diagram. And overview diagram typically would consist of something like the single line diagram. And in order to do that, I first need to have it a template active in my workspace in my project. And so this is minimally all that I need to have. I could have a title block and whatnot, but in this case, we're going to utilize the full area of this template, what I'm about to do next. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a new overview diagram. Okay, so we go down in the document structure. I'm going to use what's called the DXF import. So we're going to take an AutoCAD DXF file, and we're going to import this and immediately create our single line diagram. Okay, so it's finished. Let's go find the diagram and open it up. Okay, so now we have our diagram, and what we can do now is zoom in on a portion. Let's focus on one symbol that we can utilize to create a new intelligent symbol. And if you notice, if you click on the individual lines, everything is exploded out so that you can begin to build and modify this particular report to your needs. So what I'm going to do next is go to my global symbol library that I've been using, and I'm going to create a new symbol. Okay, this is going to be used on an overview diagram document type, and we set the function types. Go and zoom in enough here. Now let's paste in our new symbol. Okay, we're going to have to do some cleanup here. Make some changes to the text. Let's go ahead and make some additional line graphic additions. Oh. Okay, so next we want to add macros to begin to pull in the data. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you is how easy it is to pull from other symbols. In this case, it's what we call user-defined text, something that is a little involved to build, but I want to pull information that's stored in that function text1 field, and I've already created it here in this default symbol, so I'm going to copy this over into my new symbol. So it's simply a matter of copying it and then open up our new symbol. Now when we open it back up again, we can begin to see the what we call the description block that's already existing. So I paste in my new user-defined text, and let's go ahead and make some adjustments here for these existing fields. Okay, so let's just reposition these. Let's modify the attributes and center the text and reposition. All right, so we finished our new symbol. Let's save it out. Now let's go back to our report and use it. So we still have highlighted. Let's delete, load the symbol. Okay, so the symbol is intelligent now. So if I double click on it, I now have a properties window. And I can go ahead and make an item designation assignment, in particular the one that I pointed out at the beginning of this. And again, you've got to make sure that you set up all the appropriate information as CADWorx E&I sees it. So when you do that, you can immediately begin to see the data come in. In particular, we can see now that description text that was came from our import source file. We go back and take a look again at that listing of data, highlight the row. You can see that indeed what was stored in that particular field was pulled into our drawing. Okay, so that finishes the presentation today, and so I appreciate your attention today and your interest in CADWorx E&I. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. For CADWorx news, free webinars, or success stories, Google CADWorx Insider Blog.